Good morning and welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. I'm off from the day job today, so I figured, you know what, let's get out the door this morning and go check out a movie. And so I'm off to go see the new movie, Jesus Revolution, starring Kelsey Grammer. So what is Jesus Revolution about? Well, it's a faith-based drama, and it tells the story of a evangelical religious movement that happened in the United States in the late 60s, early 70s, and it lasted until the late 80s. It started in California and it kind of moved throughout the entire country at one point. So the film tells the story of how this whole thing got started. Now, what are my expectations on this film? Well, it doesn't look terrible. It looks like it's going to be like a feel-good drama just to tell the story of this organization and so on and so forth. It does not look like it's going to be breaking any new grounds here or anything like that. It is a faith-based drama, so, you know, I'm not really a religious person, so I will be looking at this from more of an outsider's perspective, and I think that's all right. I think that's going to be good for the film. All right, so enough of this, enough of that. Oh, one thing I wanted to add, I forgot. Okay, so I just did a little bit of research about this, okay? So it was called the Jesus Movement. It started in the late 60s, lasted till about the late 80s. The pastor that started this, Chuck Smith, what the whole story is a group of hippies get together with Chuck Smith, and they kind of develop this whole idea of bringing in Christian beliefs into the hippie beliefs and kind of putting them together. Peace, love, and Jesus. To the best of my knowledge, that's what I can tell. So yeah, that's what this kind of looks like. So again, like I said, it just looks like it's going to be a very feel-good kind of movie, you know, kind of warm the old heart and make me feel all bubbly and good inside. Maybe that's good. It's going to be like a nice warm hug. But the thing I found interesting was the followers of this movement were known as Jesus people, but also known as Jesus freaks, which, okay, I really enjoy Elton John. So this kind of gave new meaning to Tiny Dancer, especially the line that's, you know, Jesus freaks out in the streets handing out tickets for God or something like that. The important part is he says Jesus freaks. So I never really, you know, knew that was attached to anything really, but now that I know that the followers of this movement and so on, it's like, okay, all right, deeper meaning there, Elton. I like where you were going, thanks. And I would never have known that if it wasn't for this movie. So thank you, Jesus Revolution. Even if this movie sucks, hey, at least you taught me something, right? Right. All right, so enough of this chitter chatter. It is time for me to get out the door and see what's up with Jesus Revolution. Welcome back, just getting home from seeing the movie, and you know what, guys? Well, I got my feelings. So we're going to get this thing started. First off, I'm going to start with the negatives, and then I'm going to end on the positives like I like to do, so we can end everything on a high note, the ever so important high note. Okay, let's start with the low notes, shall we? Alright, so this movie, I thought going into it, was going to be something that I am going to call generational bait. A film that is made to try to pull in a specific age group. And right now, it is known that Hollywood has been trying to get the baby boomers back in the theaters because they have that ever so important disposable income. Why do you think you see so many PG-13 horror movies around Halloween? Because teenagers are a big source of income during that time period, but generally speaking throughout the year, you got the senior citizens that are coming to see movies, especially like those big Hollywood Oscar-winning movies. The baby boomers, they are not still to the point where they're feeling like they're comfortable getting back out in the theaters from the best of my knowledge. And so it looks like this film was one of those movies that was catered towards them just to get their butts in seats. Now that is, I know this is the beginning of the negatives, however, this is not a negative. That's just what I thought this movie was. I thought I was going to go into this film seeing something very nostalgic for a specific generation, maybe learn something that I didn't know about this organization, this movement that happened in the late 60s, early 70s that I just came aware of here recently. And that's what I was expecting, right? That's not what I got. That is not what I got at all. Okay, this movie feels like several different movies being played at one time, especially in the first act. You have the main character played by Kelsey Grammer. I think his name was Chuck Smith. I know that I remember it because it was very simple. So anyways, Kelsey Grammer's character has a church, and the church is not doing so well. It doesn't have a lot of people showing up. He meets this hippie, and this hippie teaches him some of his ways, and then Kelsey Grammer teaches the hippie some of his ways, and you think that's the movie, right? No. Because during the course of this story between these two, they're also telling the story of this other young man who's in military school at this point in the movie, and then it just kind of tells his story. Then it kind of becomes like this thing with like a Romeo and Juliet kind of like star-crossed lover thing, because then all of a sudden this girl gets tossed into his story. But basically what I'm trying to say is that you never really know what in the hell's going on, because it feels like so many different movies happening at once. And the reason why I think it feels that way is because this movie does a very, very poor job of explaining the importance of all of the characters in this film. Because it ends up that these star-crossed lovers or whatever do end up being important people down the road, but you will not know that during the course of this film. This movie is supposed to be kind of like a biopic, but it's also a biopic for a group, organization, movement, whatever it is, that I know absolutely nothing about. And so I didn't know the names of any of these people going into it. I didn't know their importance whatsoever to this movement at all. And the film does a terrible job of explaining what the importance is of these two people until the very end of the movie. And I do mean the very end of the movie. You're like, oh, so there was a point to their story, okay? Because everything just seems really strange. It's a very discombobulated story. And they also advertise that Kelsey Grammer is our lead in this, but no, he's actually in this film very little. You don't get a lot of Kelsey Grammer, which is a big disappointment also, not just because I'm a huge fan of Frasier, but it's also a really big problem because he's really the most interesting person in the entire film, the character at least. He's the only one that actually has like a decent, like some kind of, substance to his character whatsoever, so you're more interested in him, period, but he's on the screen so little, and you get so little of him that it's so annoying because you're still like, okay, I don't care about this guy. Can we please stop talking about this person and get back to Kelsey Grammer? Because isn't he playing the guy who formed this organization? Shouldn't we be learning more about him? And what it seemed like throughout the entire movie was, like I said, two movies happening at the same time, because you don't know that they actually are telling a story about people who are involved in this organization. It just seems very strange. It does a very bad job of explaining who these people are. You have to know who they are going into this film, and then maybe it will make more sense. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't feel like a anthology film, and then it's all of a sudden supposed to come together, and you're just like, why do these people like each other so much? There's been no reason for any of this motivation whatsoever. So yeah, the movie does a very, very bad job of doing what a movie's supposed to do, and that is telling the story of the movie. Whew, all right, boy, hold on one moment, guys. Hold on one moment. Oh, man. Woo! Woo! That was a lot to take. Oh, a lot to take in. There was a lot going on there. Okay, so the positive. Kelsey Grammer was great. Alright, so there you go. Kelsey Grammer was alright. I wanted more of his character story because he seemed like the only character who had any motivation to be doing anything they were doing in this entire movie. And it seemed like it was supposed to be more of his story. But yes, Kelsey Grammer does a great job. This film, to me, I feel like a different actor wouldn't have taken this so seriously and would have just completely phoned it in. But Kelsey Grammer does do a pretty good job, and it's the best he can, because another thing in this film was the dialogue. And I know I'm in the positives, but here we go back to the negatives, sorry. The dialogue feels so modern. It doesn't feel like they're talking like they would be in the 60s, and then when they try to talk like they're in the 60s, the young actors that they have playing the parts are just so not good. They just sound like they're doing, like I said yesterday with Cocaine Bear. I shouldn't say yesterday because I just posted today. But anyways, when I saw Cocaine Bear, I said the young man felt natural when he was telling the jokes. These folks didn't seem natural at all. They felt like they were playing like characters of 60s hippies. They did not seem convincing whatsoever. Okay, God, I went right back to the negatives. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't enjoy this movie very much. Sorry. I wanted to. I really did. I thought that I was going to go into this seeing a feel-good story about these people who came together. They started this movement, and wow, it was great. And what I got was about 4 or 5 different stories that kind of come together that are supposed to tell the background story of this movement, and that's... well, so here's the final verdict. Should you see this movie in theaters? No, Cocaine Bear's out this weekend. Go see Cocaine Bear. Check this movie out of curiosity when it shows up on a streaming service or something. This movie is not worth your time in theaters. I do believe, I did read this when I was doing a little bit of research, that they're only really expecting this movie to do like $5 to $6 million in the 2,000 screens that it's been released on, so I don't think they're expecting much out of this movie. So... yeah, guys, this is definitely a wait till it's on a streaming service to check it out of sheer curiosity, and that's as far as I would take it. Alright, guys, well, that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for watching the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you could do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.